Hi everyone, it's the 31st of January 2025. I'm Gary Waterman, a former UK Police Constable. This is a call that I made to the DVLA earlier today about 1300 to 1 PM UK time. It's on a secondary device, so it's a bit wobbly, not very clear, I'm afraid. I didn't do a great job of the call, but hopefully you'll get the gist of it. And the reason I've made this call is the information in relation to the forgery through linking into the Driver Vehicle Licensing Agency and the criminal collection of data via that, and using it, the system of fraud to defraud the public through the insurance companies and the DVLA, and allow the ability for them to steal vehicles through that system as well, to remove individuals and cars from the road, etc. So let's have a look at this call. There is a bit that I've had to stop it because as I flick through the screen, I'm showing some of the personal information that I don't want the public to see on there on my phone. Okay, so that's just a couple of seconds taken out of it. Okay. Sorry, is this the DVLA?
Yeah.
Oh, hello there. Sorry, what date is it today? It's the 31st of January. Hi, thanks very much for taking a call. How are you today?
Good, thank you. And yourself?
Good, very well, thank you very much. My name's Gary Waterman, and I'd like to immediately deregister my vehicle and stop you holding any of my information, and I'm going to explain why, if that's okay.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, so I was in the police for 18 years, and since 2022 I've acquired irrefutable... Can you just confirm the call is being recorded?
Yeah, all of our calls are recorded for training and monitoring purposes.
Lovely, and please play this back to your managers. So since 2022, I've acquired irrefutable evidence of international government fraud, where the governments are forging company incorporations to create illegal entity companies that should never have been allowed to trade. By doing this, they are defrauding millions of people through that system of crime, and it includes crime around the Driver Vehicle Licensing Agency. I've checked the company's house registration. Vehicle License Agency is you use an organisation called, bear with me, just trying to find it on here. So the current DVLA vehicle register was built by EDS, is that correct? Which is Electronic Data Systems.
So I don't hold that information, unfortunately.
Okay, no problem. Well, I'll just explain the situation. So Electronic Data Systems is the system that you use to hold everybody's information. It's headquartered in America. Now, I've checked the company's house registration system, and they're now removing information as the exposure of my evidence happens to take place. So they've got a company called Electronic Data Systems Limited, which I'm looking at the moment on the company's house register, and that was registered in 1985, and they're hiding all information, including the filing history, the directors, the secretaries. Now, I've never seen a company that is hiding all information. Now, when you go into another company, which is Electronic Data Systems, EDS Limited, it's linked to the international government fraud, fraudulent entity companies, falsification of incorporation documents. And also Hewlett-Packard is the company that you use, the IT company that is also involved with electronic data systems. So it's all fraudulent and criminal. So unfortunately, I can't allow you to hold any of my personal information. The police are involved, the intelligence agencies, and international governments. So how do I deregister and stop you holding all of my information, because it is criminal? Irrefutably, okay. I've got the evidence. I was in the police.
When you say holding your information, do you just mean about specific vehicles, or...?
Well, my vehicle is obviously registered to you, but obviously part of your system of crime is that you say that the owner is only a keeper. So that's why you give us a V5, which only says we're the keeper. It doesn't say we're the owner. And what that enables you to do is seize our vehicle through your criminal system that you have in place, through no tax, for example, or if there's no insurance. But even all of the insurance companies are linked to the system of fraud. And what enables those involved, and the Freemasons are the main people behind this, they can then steal money from those insurance pots, which will be worth trillions. And of course, they can utilise this system of crime to remove people's vehicles from the road. It's all criminal. And the way you do that is you forge people or defraud people into believing that they have to register their vehicle, so that the DVLA and therefore the government are the owners, so that through your licensing scheme you can then claim ownership of the vehicle if they don't follow the criminal system that you've got in place. So I would like to ensure that I am the owner of my vehicle and not the government. I paid for the vehicle. I am not a keeper. So can you please explain how I deregister and ensure that I am the owner and not the DVLA and the government, please? Because I'm not just a keeper.
Okay, if you bear with me 2 seconds, I'll double check that for you.
Thank you. Just showing some more information. Now I'm just going to pause this for a minute because I tried talking when the music was playing. You won't be able to hear it, so it's just going to be a bit annoying. So what we're going to do is go to the part where the lady comes on, but I show this a bit later, but you'll see how it's linked to the international fraud via the directors, etc. So we'll come back in a second and get back to the call.
If you use or keep a motor vehicle in the United Kingdom, then you are obliged to comply with the UK statute law. Under Section 7A of the Vehicle Excise and Registration Act 1994, the registered keeper of a vehicle must continuously license or submit a statutory off-road notification declaration for the vehicle. There are penalties provided for in statute law for breach of these obligations. I would therefore advise you to consult legal advice so that you properly understand the fit between your view of obligations and the application of statute law requirements to you.
Okay, sorry. So just to confirm, am I able to deregister my vehicle with you?
Unfortunately, I can only read you the legislation, and we won't do that for you.
So you're saying I can't deregister my vehicle from you?
No, because it won't comply with United Kingdom statute law, unfortunately. That's all I'm obliged to say.
Okay, so what you're doing is you're forcing me to take part in a criminal system.
I will not discuss this with you any further, unfortunately.
Okay. Please, can I speak to a supervisor?
They won't take this call. It is the legislation, sir. I will not be passing you over to a supervisor.
Okay, but the legislation is fraudulent and criminal because you're using a fraudulent criminal system. I have the evidence here. Can I send you the evidence of the fraudery that you're involved in through the company registration system?
We won't take any evidence. We can only advise you to consult legal advice.
Okay. The legal system's compromised. Can you confirm who the owner of the vehicle is when I register it with you?
No, we can only confirm who the registered keeper of the vehicle is.
So who is the owner then?
So the owner by law would be the person who purchases that item or action. But again, I will not go into further conversations surrounding any law or obligations with you. I have read the legislation.
Sure.
And there's nothing further we can advise to you, unfortunately.
Sure. Can you confirm why it doesn't say I'm the owner on my V5?
As I said, sir, unfortunately, I will not get into further discussion with you about this. We would just have to consult legal advice.
Sure. So am I the owner or am I not the owner if I've got a
Again,
V5?
I'll say it for the third and final time, sir. The only thing I can advise you is to consult legal advice if there's any issues with the UK statute or legislation that we've provided for you today. If there are no further questions that we can provide for you, I will terminate the call. We appreciate your call.
Yeah, I've heard that there's a form that I can fill out to deregister my vehicle.
So we don't hold anything about the deregistering of a vehicle. As I said, it's got to comply with the UK statute law. But I have repeated this same statement 3 times. I will now terminate the call.
No, I understand that, but you're asking if I have any further questions. Can I ask you further questions?
Not if it doesn't. Not if it's still in relation to obviously you be registering your vehicle, which I have provided for you that we will not be doing for you.
But it is in relation to registration of the vehicle. That's why I'm speaking to you, because I'm concerned that my data is part of a criminal system.
Okay, then we do have to advise you to consult legal advice. Now, because I've repeated that same statement 3 times, I will be terminating the call with you.
But if the legal system is part of the fraudulent system, then there's no independent continuity of advice, is there?
I will not be continuing with this conversation anymore, sir. We appreciate you today. Thank you very much.
So, is there any way that I can?
Thank you for taking part in DVLA's customer satisfaction.
Okay, so you heard that, guys. Just to show you further the research, so here's Eversheds. That's linked to police organisations and the system of fraud. Into EDS, you've got Mark Lampton. And Mark is linked to a company that features throughout the fraud, EYP Mission Critical Facilities, that then links into, obviously, military organisations, criminal, fraudulent, throughout. This is a company that features throughout, Knightsbridge. And then still in the same company, EDS, we have Mark Louthwaite, links to a company that's already featured in the fraud, the Royal Navy and Royal Marines charity. Of course, the Freemasons, remember, are behind this, and a lot of the Freemasons are in the military or police. EDS, you have Alan Stevens, and they link to Lockheed Martin, which links to the research in Dorset and Hampshire, which is where this all started for me, the inquiries, and they link to the the chief constables for Dorset. And then you have the Institute for the Management of Information, which is interesting, which had an original name, according to this, on the register from 1974. But important to remember, the World Economic Forum started in 1971, so this is 3 years later. Institute of Data Processing Limited, in brackets, the. On the incorporation document, the is at the beginning. Okay, so it's a fraudulent entity company. You also have the same director linked to philanthropy in communities. And at the bottom, there's within the people record, electronic data systems, EDS International BV, British Virgin Islands, I think that stands for, offshore accounts. You can see you've got a Netherlands address, not in the United Kingdom. This allows the ability to launder money through these organisations. When you search that company, there's no trace. They've removed the company from the records. Now, the if you go back, where is it? Let's go back. See here, the DVLA is an executive agency of the Department of Transport. The chief executive of the agency is Julie Karen Leonard, okay? So what I'm just about to do is search this name in Google and you'll see the results. There's a bit of information into Julie. You can see they've got the name as Lnnard. Very unusual spelling for Leonard. I suspect they've changed that as this is being exposed. But Julie, get in contact with me, please try and explain this. But when you search it, it comes up with Julie Leonard spelled like this. And you go into it and then you hit the citizens advice companies. Now, these are featured all the way through the fraud. And you can see, born in 1971. Remember, we've just been talking about the World Economic Forum, and the evidence shows that they're using people with dates of birth right the way through, matching the World Economic Forum start date. So here's East Dunbartonshire Citizens Advice Bureau. And you can see, I've just shown some of the information coming in here. Catherine Bradley links to Caritas, which is a social services company. Remember, there's international child trafficking linked to this. Back into the same company, you've got Geraldine Baird, links to Vamp Productions Limited. I thought that was quite interesting, bearing in mind we're talking about fluid taken from poor children in relation to a lot of this. So here's Vamp Productions. And within Vamp Productions, Peter Hamilton we now find links to Scottish companies. Okay, now Scotland's very important in all of this. It's where the world's oldest working Freemasons lodge is based. And we have Royal Associated Companies now. Remember, the royal family are all implicated in this, or certainly some of them. Scottish Opera Theatre Royal Limited, an address, Queen's Park in Edinburgh. Is it Edinburgh? Sorry, Glasgow. Scottish Opera Theatre Royal. Back into Vamp, we then have McKinnon family connections. Now, research suggests that Donald Trump's has a link to McKinnon's in Scotland, and of course they have featured in my previous research, and the McKinnons tie in to the Iona prophecy and St Columbus, which we'll come to in a minute. But obviously Donald Trump has Scottish connections through his relatives, I believe, but also the Scottish golf clubs that he has here. Now, within the vamp production, you've got Reynard nominees. Here's Reynard nominees, and you can see a Keir company. I suspect that relates to the Keir Starmer family, because there's connections through, he's got various Keir companies that appear to link into him. And this is in Edinburgh, this company. Here's Reynard nominees. And interesting, I find when you go into this, you can see the name change at the bottom here. All they've done is swap it's exactly the same. I don't know if you're able to see it on here. So you can see Reynard nominees Keir, but K-I-E-R, and Tynrone. And all they've done is change the company name and swap the letters, K-E-I-R. This is what they do, you see. So a small change in it removes the accountability and liability, but the whole thing is fraudulent with the forgery of the incorporation documents. You have the same person, same organisation is linked to climate change. Oh, sorry, camera's coming off. Climate Change Scotland. And remember, we talked about the St Columbus prophecy. And here's St Columbus Hospice Limited. And also links into Edinburgh festivals. Well, the Edinburgh Music Festival is already linked into all the research previously, linking into Michelle Mone, Prince Charles, or King Charles now, international government fraud. And also St Nicholas, which features also throughout the research. Now remember, St Nicholas is an important religious character, shall we say, and ties in with Christmas, which appears to be a huge mockery. And obviously Santa, if you change the letters around, what does that mean? Now you also have a link to Washington, bearing in mind we've just talked about the McKinnon link to St Columbus and McKinnon link to Donald Trump. We now have a link to Washington, Dun Alistar Washington Limited. I'm just showing you some of it here. Again, an address in Edinburgh. And also you have healthcare, Royal Infirmary in Scotland, Edinburgh Royal Choral Union, so it links into the religious establishments. And then we also have media links through it. Scottish Water, of course, the manipulation control of water. McDonald's Resorts, the name McDonald's features throughout, but also McDonald's, the restaurants, seems to be used potentially, unfortunately, for very sinister activities. Bearing in mind we're talking about child trafficking. And here's McDonald's Resorts. We also have the British Real Estate Company. It's all linking into the same director. Scottish Film Actors and Writers Workshop. You then hit, now linking into the satanic side of things, there's a real drive for transgenderism and things like that, because it separates us from our creator, and that links into the satanic realm and element. So here you've got this. And then in the East Dumbarton.
Just want to explain that a little bit better. So nothing against people if they want to be homosexual or gay, that's absolutely fine. But what I personally have a problem with is an international government driving a move towards, shall we say, away from our creator. And they're doing that through the initial gay side of things, but also then going into transgenderism. Okay, and this is a deliberate drive by international governments that links into, or appears to be linking into, satanic Luciferian elements, because what it is doing is separating us from our creator and from nature. No problem if anyone makes their own decision to be that. You know, we're all entitled to do our own thing, but when you have a government drive that's linked into something very sinister, then that's obviously a serious issue. And what it is going to end up leading to, unfortunately, it looks like, is transhumanism, which is the furthest separation from our creator. So amalgamating biology with man-made technology, and you can see that with the Neuralink, etc. So I am not homophobic in any way, shape or form. Okay, let me just make that clear. However, as I've said, if it is a government drive linking to a satanic element to ultimately lead to the end of humanity and transhumanism, then of course I have a problem with that. Hopefully that clears that up a bit.
Dumbarton, that's Dumbartonshire, the citizens' advice that we're looking at. That's where Dumbarton is where Madeleine McCann's father, Gerald McCann, was brought up, I believe, and this all ties in with the Madeleine McCann case as well. Okay, it's all tying in with lots of important cases that we're aware of, and that's why the Madeleine McCann case is obviously a very unique case, isn't it? How long it's been going on for. You have the Scottish Association of Citizens Advice Bureau, and that's all I've done with that so far. So you can see it's linked to an international fraudulent system, particularly via the if I just go back to that actually, just so you can understand that, because I was sort of, but it goes on further on. Okay, you can pause this and read it, or just do your own research. Just type in DVLA Wikipedia, and you'll be able to see this. It's very important, links in with Wales. But here it says, this is important, the current DVLA vehicle register was built by EDS under a £5 million contract signed in 1996, 5 years before the World Trade Center disaster, with a planned implementation date of October 1998. And then when you research the electronic EDS, it comes up with this, Electronic Data Systems, based in Texas, Hewlett-Packard linked to it. Okay, linked to IBM. I believe there's mention of IBM. That's already been linked to the fraud. Interesting. You can also see United States Naval Academy. Bearing in mind we saw the naval link in that company a minute ago that's already featured throughout the fraud. Now that ties in with Ian Fleming in the Fleming family, because he was tied to the intelligence side, I believe, of the naval side of the military. And you can see in 1970s it expanded. Well, that's the World Economic Forum 1971. So it expanded initially into insurance services and later credit unions. All fraudulent, everybody, completely criminal. Okay, so I advise everybody to non-comply, because it's facilitating child trafficking, all of this, deliberately. So when you go in, and then that's when you do the search from the electronic data systems. There's two that come up when you search on Companies House. Electronic Data Systems Limited, which was started in 1985 and closed. It doesn't tell you when it closed. That's almost, I've never seen that. In fact, it normally always tells you the date that it closed, but they've hidden that information. And you can see it started here, changed its name, and it's an overseas company. Okay, so this gives the ability to launder money through these organisations. And you can see it's got a Belfast address, and they've hidden everything. I mean, this is the first time I've ever seen a company that's hidden everything. So you can't even, no filing history, no people. You see when you click on the people, no officers. Now, Companies House main job is to supply information to the public about a company. So they're hiding that information. Very likely, as this is being exposed, they're realising they're in trouble. The other company is where the research then links into the other stuff that I've talked about earlier. And you can see it looks like they've forged the document. So it did have EDS Limited, and they've added afterwards to try and make it match the register. So they realised this was all coming out, and it would have been a fraudulent entity company, I suspect. So they've added this afterwards because they realised they were in trouble. And then we've just gone on from there, and it links in Hewlett-Packard, which was already mentioned in the research. Okay, hopefully that will make sense. Thanks very much. Bye. Sorry, is this the DVLA?
Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. So it's all part of the international government fraud. Of course, there'll be huge, vast amounts of money sitting there for these people to steal it in the insurance pots. It's all criminal, all fraudulent, because of the forgery in the Company House registration system, and they know it. And they would have hidden that information. They probably closed that company very recently, I would think, that EDS company. And that's why they've hidden the date, because they knew if they put the date, it would then tie in with my evidence and expose them doing it because of this exposure. Everyone, this is a very critical time for humanity. There's going to be a document publicised soon. We'll have a chronological it'll be a chronological evidential research document showing everything and how it's all progressed. And we really need to do something. This has the potential to end in absolute disaster for humanity, but also has the potential for creating heaven on earth through the moral conscience that we need to use to bring back accountability, liability, truth, trust and transparency. It's absolutely essential to save the children is the priority, of course, and there's nothing more grounding to take away your fear, or there shouldn't be, for you to do everything in your ability to stand up to this to save the children. Because if you're not willing to do that, then there's very serious consequences very likely going to happen to those that aren't. Take care. Thanks very much. Bye.
Research flatters.